Science is work in progress. Theories that were propounded 200 years ago got rejected 100 years ago, and those succeeding theories got rejected by recent theories. So what today is presented as the truth by science, how do we know that 30 years from today, forthcoming scientists will not say that this is all wrong? Now scientists, they reject spirituality because they say you are basing your theories on faith. We only believe what has been proved. However, science is always starting with assumptions. And then science, you ask, how did this world get created? There was a bang. The bang came afterwards. Before the bang was a mass, a huge mass which exploded. Where did the mass come from? That we don't know. Our impure thoughts, evil thoughts, how do we eradicate these? Science says we do not know. And that exactly is where spiritual science comes in. So in this age of science, we definitely value the logic and verifiable facts. However, the pursuit of science had one goal to it: to remove the suffering of humankind and ultimately provide us with the fulfillment and happiness that we are looking for. And that has not happened. If we analyze, our great-grandfathers were probably happier than people in our generation, even though they didn't have much to go by. Today, an ordinary person in the lower middle class has a standard of living equivalent to the royalty in the 17th century. What about the quality of life? The scriptures tell us the quality of your life doesn't depend on the number of bedrooms in your house, but on the mind within. Mana eva manushyanaham. This mind will determine your happiness and your distress. That is why we started off with John Milton. The mind is a place of its own, and in itself can make heaven out of hell and hell out of heaven. So, when it comes to conquering the mind, science just does not have the tools and technologies. That is why Einstein himself, he had to lift his hands. He said, science has succeeded in denaturing the plutonium atom, but it cannot denature the evil in man's hearts. Our impure thoughts, evil thoughts, how do we eradicate these? Science says we do not know. We study the phenomena of the external world and we learn how to harness the forces of nature for our luxury and comfort. But when it comes to inner purification, don't ask us, because technology is not available to science. And that exactly is where spiritual science comes in. Spiritual science is that field of knowledge which helps us manifest the divinity within by purifying our mind. Further, we have some big questions in life. Who am I? How was this world created? Why am I in this world? Science is unable to answer these questions. And the reason? Science is yet work in process. Theories that were propounded 200 years ago got rejected 100 years ago, and those succeeding theories got rejected by recent theories. So what today is presented as the truth by science, how do we know that 30 years from today, the forthcoming scientists will not say that this is all wrong? Take, for example, what happened in the laws of physics. In the early 18th century, the famous Sir Isaac Newton, he propounded his laws of motion. From the perspective of Newton, this world was like a machine with masses and forces acting between the masses. So, if you knew the position of all the masses today and their respective weights and their interaction, you could then predict the situation of the world at the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. So Newton felt the whole world is like a machine with forces and masses. But then along came Michael Faraday. He took a magnet and passed it through an electric coil, thereby transferring mechanical energy into electric energy. Now this went beyond the scope of Newtonian mechanics. Something new had been discovered. And then along came Maxwell. Maxwell replaced the concept of electric energy with electric force field. He said if there's a positive charge and a negative charge, between the two of them, naturally there'll be the force of attraction. But suppose there is no negative charge, only a positive charge. It still has a force field around it. So again the scientific viewpoint changed, and people now started understanding light as a rapidly oscillating electromagnetic spectrum. But then came the great Einstein, and in 1905 he presented his theory of relativity. There he said that two objects, two events will be sequenced differently by people moving at different speeds. And matter has energy that is associated with it, which can be equated by his equation E is equal to mc square. So matter itself is potential energy. That led to the basis for creating the nuclear bomb, that matter is potential energy. At the same time, there were developments taking place in the atomic level. From the time of the Greeks, the Western world believed that the smallest indivisible particle of nature is the atom. However, you have all heard the name of Rutherford in school chemistry. He bombed metal with carbon, with ticks, and he counted the ticks on the other side with a Geiger counter, and discovered that 99.99% of matter is empty. So he presented the atomic theory of electrons, protons and neutrons, where protons and neutrons form the nucleus and the electron rotates around at rapid speeds. However, in the 1920s, quantum physicists led by Niels Bohr, they brought about a quantum shift. And they propounded that at the subatomic level, matter is not the way we presume it to be. It has a dual particle and wave nature. It is both particle and wave energy. And then came Heisenberg with his uncertainty principle. He said you cannot predict where the electron is. It has tendencies of existing at different places in the atom. Now, when this was made aware to Einstein, Einstein said, my every attempt to reconcile the theoretical concepts of physics with the new kind of knowledge has failed. It is as if the earth has been pulled from under my feet with nothing to fall down upon. And the other problem that arose was that you needed now to reconcile quantum theory with Einstein's theory of relativity. Because at the subatomic level, particles are moving rapidly. The electron is spinning and the proton is rotating. It's got angular momentum. So this combination was not possible, has not been done so far. Scientists have been searching and searching since the time of Einstein to come up with a unified field theory. The idea of a unified field theory is that you tie up all the forces of nature, all matter, all energy into one equation. That equation has not yet been discovered. These scientists may be astonished to know that the unified field theory equation was presented 5,000 years ago by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when he said, Bhumirapo nalo vayuh khammano buddhirevacha ahankara itiyam me bhinna prakritirashtadha. He said, Arjun, these are 8 forms of my material energy, Maya. Earth is energy. Mr. Einstein, listen carefully. Water is also energy, going a little beyond. And fire is also energy, we know, but air is also energy, and so is space. And listen more carefully now. The mind is also a form of energy, and so is a superior one called the intellect, and then the ego. And beyond that is divine energy, which is the soul. Arjun, I am the supreme energetic, the source of all of these. So, science is work in progress. Now, scientists, they reject spirituality because they say you are basing your theories on faith. And we don't go by faith. We only believe what has been proved. This is the pride of the scientists, that we don't go by faith. You prove it to us and we will accept it. However, this is a big misnomer. Science also has so many assumptions in it. For example, Newton himself, he based his whole theory on Euclidean geometry. Remember Euclid from middle school? Euclid's geometry said that if there are 2 points, there can be only one line that can pass through it. Now, along came another mathematician called Riemann. Riemann said, I will relook this postulate of Euclid. Supposing between 2 points we can have 2 or more lines passing through it, then what? He changed the assumption and he created a whole geometry called Riemann geometry. But then came another mathematician called Lobachevsky. Lobachevsky said, I will relook the 5th postulate of Euclid. If there is a line and a point, Euclid said, there can be only one line parallel to the first line that can pass through this point. Lobachevsky said, we will assume that you can have many lines. It is an assumption. Science is always starting with assumptions. So let us assume you can have many lines passing. Now he created a whole Lobachevsky geometry. And Einstein, in his theories, he used Lobachevsky's geometry, not Euclidean geometry. So this idea that spirituality is based on faith and science is not really correct. Scientists make an assumption. They assume that their logic is absolute, and now let us proceed. That was my complaint when I was studying engineering in IIT for 5 years, that we are always starting with assumptions and then we are proceeding. It is not as sacrosanct as people make it out to be. And then science, you ask, how did this world get created? There was a bang. But the bang came afterwards. Before the bang was a mass, a huge mass which exploded. Where did the mass come from? That we don't know. So you have only pushed the question one step back. How did the world come about? By a bang. So where did the mass come from? We don't know. And supposing there was a bang, then there should have been complete chaos in the world. But we find such intricate laws of physics and chemistry and biology. If there are laws, there must be a lawmaker. Isn't it common sense? So this idea that one is based on hard logic and the other is based on assumptions is incorrect. Both branches of knowledge require faith. The Mundaka Upanishad states there are two bona fide valid branches of knowledge: material science and spiritual science. See how beautiful. Both are given the category of science, vidya, paravidya, aparavidya. So they look on both as science. Kshetra, kshetragyayor jnanam. The Bhagavad Gita states the beginning of spiritual knowledge to understand the distinction between the body, which is the field of activities, and the knower of the body, which is the self. So with a very scientific attitude, this spiritual knowledge is propounded out there. And the Vedas also say, to succeed in life, you will need both. So material science is necessary to handle the body, and spiritual science is necessary for tending to the soul.